I am so very pleased to introduce Rabbi Elizabeth Hersh. Rabbi Hersh is currently senior rabbi at Temple Emmanuel. Some of you may have met her before she moved to Australia, and then she was at United Hebrew. I understand the growth at Temple Emmanuel since you've joined the congregation is phenomenal. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you to my colleagues, and thank you to Temple Emmanuel, because without you, I wouldn't be here this evening. I feel very humbled and a little bit emotional whenever I have the opportunity to speak about my passion, which is my rabbinate, which is my life. And I think I don't have a great grandiose story of how I journeyed here. I'll try and make it nice for you. But I think it boils down to that I wanted a lifestyle. I didn't want a profession that was a job. I wanted to live the values that I believed in. And daily living as a rabbi was doing just that. While I thank all of my colleagues, I also want to take a moment to think about my parents' memory, who would be quelling every time I have one of these moments, every time I lead a class or conduct services. So I really want to dedicate my 4 to 6 minutes to my dear parents' memory, and also in honor of my husband and son, without whose support, and many of you know Rabbi and Noah, and without their support, I couldn't be half the rabbi that I am. I grew up in what I'm going to term a mixed marriage. My mother was classical reform. She'd be very proud of me at Temple Emmanuel. And my father grew up conservative. But let me explain to you what that meant in the Hersh household. It meant that my dad would only use the old Silverman prayer book and wanted a conservative service. And my mother, who grew up classical reform, was complete with ritual. But ritual had a lot of superstition. So we lit Shabbat candles, but you couldn't light them barefoot, because only barefoot you was a house of mourning. My mother would come in from a Shiva call or from the funeral going, don't talk to me, and head right for the bathroom to wash her hands. I keep wet ones in my car. We had kosher meat, but only on the holidays. So that explains a lot of me, doesn't it? So my mother used to talk about, because my mother was used to the old Reform prayer book, the old Union prayer book, and she said for years she sat at High Holidays crying until someone showed her that the conservative book went the other way. So I grew up conservative, but we always had egalitarian seating. My rabbi of blessed memory was Samuel Porath. He was a Sabra, he was Israeli. We had women presidents, but I went to religious school 3 days a week, and that's the reason I can't ice skate, because we had free lessons. Ice skating became Monday and Wednesday, and those were 2 of the days that I had to go to religious school. But I've always loved Judaism. And like many of you have stated, it was a safe place. The synagogue was a safe place, and it was a place where I would go every Friday night, even as a teenager, and I loved just sitting in the pew with my mom or my mom and my dad, and then I might go out afterwards, but it was my way of ending the week. It was my way of becoming whole with myself. I was introduced to Nifty when I was about 15 years old, which was a godsend, because I was one of a handful of Jews at a school in the suburb of Buffalo, New York, so I grew up as a minority with a great deal of anti-Semitism. When I was in college, I went to Skidmore. My junior year, I met Rabbi Linda Motzkin, and it was an actualization. It was an actualization, like many of my colleagues have had, of seeing a woman rabbi, of what was possible. And then the more I looked into the rabbinate, I also applied to the Reconstructionist school, but decided to go to HUC instead, that the rabbinate, and many of you will appreciate this term, for me was not a treadmill, although I do love the treadmill, that the rabbinate was a way of integrating learning and studying and growing and working with people, of engaging moments of people's lives with God. I could be pastoral, I would enjoy writing. And it wasn't until several years ago, after I left United Hebrew and I left the full-time rabbinate, that I did a number of other rabbinical works. And my love goes out to Lori Goldberg, who's here this evening, who embraced me with open arms at Jewish Family and Children's Service, where I learned another aspect of the rabbinate, and probably some of the hardest and best work I've ever done was in nursing homes and skilled and assisted. So the rabbinate to me as a 19 or 20-year-old was an opportunity to, every day would be new, every hour would be different. So honestly, when I applied to rabbinical school, I was 20 years old. What did I know? I knew absolutely nothing. It was either that or law school. So with all due respect to the lawyers, I think I would have made a better rabbi than lawyer. So, while I was the first woman rabbi at United Hebrew and Temple Emmanuel, I think I've made my career, it's ordained almost 22 years ago. I've tried to make my career not about my gender. I've always believed the qualities were about the individual and not about the gender. So when people would say, oh, women rabbis are this or women rabbis are that, I always pushed back. So the decision to enter rabbinical school was actually very simple, but continuing to become is the wonderful challenge, because each day, each interaction with individuals reinforces my decision. It's that we are all on a journey. We are all somewhere in a fabulous wilderness of becoming. So I am quite blessed to be part of a profession that encourages growth and community. It encourages study. It encourages love. It encourages each of us to be a living Torah. And I'll just close with something that stayed with me. During our first year of rabbinical school in Jerusalem, we'd have visiting rabbis. And a rabbi said to me, and it's one of the few things I remember, was too many rabbis love Judaism, but they don't like Jews. And I have to tell you, that stayed with me. And every day, every moment, I remind myself of that, and I do a self-check that I love our people. I love the people that are part of our congregation, whether they are Jewish, whether they affiliate with the Jewish people, but that's what I love, that yes, I was drawn to this lifestyle because I love Judaism, but I also love Jews and the Jewish community.